Determining what media is best for a data network, whether it being wired or wireless, is a very personalized question. I wouldn't ever say one is best because people's needs are different, and as time goes on, there are clear benefits of having a combination of both in my network. When determining what type of medium to use, whether it is wired or wireless, on your data network, I think it's important to look at your network. I looked this up online one time, and everyone swore by wired. I had some questions to the left, and just food for thought. One of the big ones I think is accessibility. Uh, if you're trying to have a secure network, you cannot really beat wired. Um, that means if you put your network where the only way really to jump inside your network, your local network, is to connect to your local network. If they have to come in and plug in through a jack, it makes life a lot more difficult for a hacker. Uh, it's also easier to control. Um, so then the second advantage of a wire network is the speeds. Uh, you can't really beat it. It's pretty fast and it's stable. Wires don't normally break, jacks don't normally break unless somebody's been abusing them, and it's usually you can conduct a visual inspection and be like, oh, somebody messed up with this cable. Uh, One of the third advantages is cost. While it has a higher initial cost, the overall cost of having a wire network is a lot cheaper. When you push updates to all your computers, it goes a lot faster. It takes, you know, less than a day to update all these computers versus a wireless, which might take a whole week at the same update. As you get to more computers, you're going to be more responsible for doing patches and scans and reporting the scans and being compliant with different standardizations. You could look up the references when you're going through Security Plus on CompTIA Security Plus or any sort of the Cisco networking certs. The other thing to consider for wired is long-term survivability. The network will stay great. The wires don't change very often. As you read through the lessons, you'll see that Cat5 e-cable works for pretty much everything. Some of the faster networks, which most people don't need for office work, to be honest, doesn't change. So let's say you do need a faster connection. Usually that's between your backbone and your core network. You're talking about your switches and routers, and that should be pretty much in a room to begin with anyway. Once you go fiber, that could take you to another building, so you could have an edge switch kind of, and you can connect it there for faster speeds between your actual network. Uh, for wireless, that's a lot more difficult. If you're trying to go completely wireless and you try to go between even rooms in certain buildings, you're not going to be able to get connectivity. So you need more access points. You do access points, and then if you go between buildings, it becomes a nightmare. One of the things about wireless is the accessibility. You put that signal out, people could see it. So let's say you're on the first floor by the window and you have an access point. While you might not be able to get that from that access point by the window to the office, halfway down the office in a separate little block, the person outside your window could have access to your network. Um, for me personally, that's a red flag. Like, hey, you need more wireless security, and that means you also need more ITs, because wireless networks fights with the hackers are ongoing. It's constantly evolving. Uh, it's not as secure as people think anymore. Uh, the other disadvantage of having a wireless network is that the wireless technology changes. So as you go through different times, you're going to need to update your wireless network 5-10 years from now. Whereas wired, you only have to do your devices, but the actual medium doesn't change. But I think the convenience for wireless mediums is there. So if you're a relatively new modern company, or a household, and you have iPads and tablets and very minimal shared resources that can't go on wireless, definitely you could go wireless and be successful. If your company issues out these devices, that's even better, because you could add the added security of putting the MAC addresses on the switches and routers, and makes it a little bit more secure so not everybody could access, especially if you're not broadcasting your name everywhere. That's one of the advantages of wireless. It's pretty much being convenient. It allows you to work remotely. A lot of places are finding out that to collaborate, you really need to be right next to each other. You know, we work so hard to separate each other. Now they're saying, hey, if I could walk next door and talk to them, even though I have a tablet in my hand, that tends to be more efficient than me sending somebody a message on a cell phone. So some of the questions I put on the side will come and play here. So if you're providing everything on your network and you're responsible for updating, obviously wired is probably a better choice. But if you're expecting people to work on their own personal laptops, or you're a coffee shop and people just use your network to get internet access, wireless is probably the way to go. There's some basic questions that you have to ask like that. What kind of network resources are they using for applications? Is everyone sharing applications? Everyone's using the cloud? That kind of stuff will come in play, because if everyone's using the cloud because your business is pretty much mobile, you might as well go wireless. Why not? Why would you even focus on wired? My belief is there's a balance for everything. There's not one best for everybody's network, but I think there is a best for every network. So, for instance, if somebody is a mobile company, they have an office, but they are traveling 6 months out of the year, why are you going to do desktops? Desktops are going to, yes, they're more powerful, but they're not really useful if you're having to work on the road, on an airplane. Trust me, I've done it. It's not pleasant. However, everybody should have a desk. So let's say somebody has a desk. You want them to have their monitors. You want the right chair, ergonomics. You don't want somebody to have a messed up back that you're paying for later on. So you get your laptop and you could plug it into your docking station there. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like having a desktop experience, but you're plugged in there. So at my small office, everything's wired. So I could have all my securities push on my updates, because they're in once, twice a month, and they could get all the updates pushed onto their laptops as needed. Sometimes I could do it remotely too. The second thing is when they're ready to leave, they just pop out their laptop and then they could go. And they could go travel from their hotel room. They could VPN, SSL tunnel into our network. But that's what works best for me. The reason why my office is wired is because when they do arrive, a lot of times they update and they store a backup of whatever they worked on, their projects or whatnot. And you have a couple of gigabytes coming into our shared network resources. So when they come there, I need the speed. I need to be able to update, need to scan while I have the opportunity and make it work. However, I need the ability to have somebody travel, access text documents and very minimal stuff while they're working off their own local laptop or my local laptop, and go from there. But not every company is set up that way, so it's important to look at somebody's network, your own network. Like I said, find a balance of both. Another example would be a gaming center. Japan, they have these great places where you go get a tiny booth and you could use a high-speed computer and you can rent the space. All that stuff is wired. However, they have a wireless network there as well. So if, let's say you want to set up a spot for a rec center and you have a couple Xboxes, a couple PlayStations, big TVs, you probably want everything hardwired while you have a wireless access point so people could connect off their cell phones and devices. Probably heavier on the wireless side because you only have a set number of devices that need to be plugged in through wired. Everything else, they don't need the extra speed. They don't need the extra devices, and you can create a lot more security by separating that, basically a VLAN for wireless users or roaming users to protect everything else. So depending on your network, I would definitely take a look at what your network needs and then apply a mixture of